Are you struggling with feeling stuck in your life journey? Does it seem as if the challenges or conflicts that you keep experiencing are on repeat? Healing through feeling could be your new way through to a more satisfying life. Now, here is the host of the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide, Sharyn Nichols.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Feel to Heal show with myself, Sharyn Nichols, on the Inspired Choices Network. And currently, we're being live streamed on Facebook. So, welcome, everyone who is tuning in and listening and participating. And I know that I'm very, very bubbly, and today's topic is about trauma. So I will try and temper my whole overall demeanor just because this is serious. And I'm just going to take a breath. So I'm changing up my format a little bit. So I'm going to chat for a little bit and give you some of my thoughts and feelings. And then after the first break, we're going to do our meditation. So I'm really excited to be doing something new. So I chose this topic because I don't know anyone who has not suffered some sort of trauma, either currently at this exact moment or at some point in their life. And there's just been so much talk about trauma. There's trauma bonding, which is something that we do with each other because unfortunately, or maybe even fortunately, this is what we do as humans. We try and find what we have in common. So we'll start with the trauma bonding because of course we're going to start with what's wrong rather than what's right. So we're going to start with all the list of things that we can talk about that we are victims of, that perhaps we were not in 100% control of. So things that happened to us as a child where we had no choice as to how we were treated and what we were told. And I know that's a very broad stroke as to what I'm saying. And I'll narrow it, I promise, as I keep talking. And then, of course, as we get older and we experience new traumas or the conditioning of past traumas, and so the re-trauma, I totally am blanking on the word, where when we just experienced the trauma again and again. Yes, similar to PTSD. So yes, thank you. When we get triggered from a past trauma. So I feel as though we just go from one trigger to the next. So it's easy to talk about the triggers that we had no control over. And then now as adults, when new triggers happen where we feel as though we have more control, that can then bring us more shame and guilt. So the shame and the guilt already takes place when we're children, although as we become adults, as children, we have more of an understanding or more of a letting off the hook in terms of control. Just going to breathe. I'm just going to breathe. So what is trauma? You know me, I went and I looked up the definition. And according to the American Psychological Association, it defines trauma as an emotional response to a stressful event. An emotional response to a stressful event. Very, very narrow. So after a stressful event, people may experience feelings of shock and denial. Then the long-term effects of trauma may include intense emotions, physical symptoms, flashbacks, and problems with relationships. Thank goodness I'm just going to say, thank goodness I get to do what I do for a living. Thank goodness I get to help people. Because actually, one of the first things that they do say in terms of how to handle and deal with and heal from your trauma is first and foremost seeking professional help. Someone who can understand and hold you where you are in the trauma process, because it does take mostly a trained professional. I mean, of course, there are some friends who definitely understand and have worked through their own and that absolutely can hold you where you are. But a trained professional can hold you when you get re-triggered, because unfortunately, for me, I believe the first line of defense or offense with healing trauma is to put yourself in a situation, not so you relive it, although so you could actually talk about it as though it is in the present moment. And so in order to be able to do that, you definitely need a professional who can hold you in that place and be there in whatever comes up and be able to talk it through and work it through and give you the tools and just allow you your full breath that you need to experience so you can heal. Because one of the biggest things I have found with trauma is that since we shy away from it, once we do get triggered, we go through this whole mental talk, the self-talk, the either the screaming or the yelling, the kicking of the dog, in terms of when we get triggered, we've got to take it out somewhere or let it go. It's the buildup. It's that steam buildup that to that boiling point, and then we just explode. And a lot of us are much better at it than others. And sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder, even if you're really, really good at it. And I'd like to think that I'm really good at it. I'm really good at rationalization, at justification, at being able to temper my own emotions and not take it out on someone. That's only part of it. It's then what we do to ourselves. And then how we beat ourselves up with our trauma. Because, of course, we don't want to now project it onto everyone else, because we know that just because person A triggered us when it was actually something that happened way in the past, we don't want to take it out on the person who triggered us. So maybe it's actually be person A is the person who triggered us. And then by the time we become adults, it's, person Z, we'll go with that, that ends up triggering us. So just going to keep breathing. So I want to talk about the three main types of trauma. There's acute, there's chronic, or complex. So acute trauma results from a single incident. And that's mostly what I'm referring to in terms of, I truly believe that most of us as humans have experienced acute trauma. And it could have happened when we were really little. It could have been something that it was really, really small. And we then, of course, in our childlike minds, blew up. And so we still get triggered by it. Then there's chronic trauma, which is repeated and prolonged, such as domestic violence or abuse. And I'll even throw in there that one. I don't know why it's not in here. Child abuse. And maybe that's what the abuse is. I guess I also see it. Domestic violence is also, spousal abuse. I don't know. It's all intertwined. I suppose abuse is abuse. So I'm going to bring that back in. So complex trauma is exposure to varied and multiple traumatic events, often of an invasive interpersonal nature. What human beings do to human beings, it is truly incredible how we keep doing what we only know to do, how we have been conditioned to show up and to be. And it's truly about breaking the pattern, breaking, yes, we talk about breaking the silence. We talk about breaking the pattern, doing something different. Would rather be happy or would rather be right? I don't know, that still has been rolling through my brain. So, what are some signs of trauma? Symptoms of psychological trauma, as I mentioned before: shock, denial, or disbelief. It's usually the first one. I mean, it's very similar to the stages of loss. I've recently been talking more about the stages of loss with regards to trauma, because first we go into the shock and denial because we can't actually believe that this is happening, like to wrap our brain around it as an adult, and perhaps even as a child with our fantasy and magical thinking, which definitely does save us as children. And then as adults, we have the disassociation, and I'm going to just keep breathing. So then there's confusion and difficulty concentrating. Always then. So that's part of the shock and denial. And then we go into anger, irritability, mood swings, great anxiety and fear. So avoidance, avoidance, avoidance. So let's stay in our own little bubble. Let's worry about something that we think we can have some control over. Let's project. Let's project onto things, onto other people. It's incredible how we truly believe that we can do things alone, and we just can't. And that would be withdrawing from other people, because we don't want to project onto others. We don't want people to know our guilt and our shame and self-blame. And then, of course, with the biggest amount of trauma, there's feelings of sadness or hopelessness. And then, of course, feelings of disconnection or numb, which definitely is also one of the first places that I then go with anyone, and especially my clients, to assess for suicidality. Always, first and foremost, you want to start and ask someone if they have a plan. And then, of course, how easy or difficult it is to actually execute the plan. So we're going to take a little break now. We're going to take our first break. And when we come back, we're going to move into a meditation, which I think will then help anchor me for sure even more, and help us then roll into some of the things that we can do to relieve some of our own feelings after we are triggered. So welcome everyone from Facebook who have just joined us live at the Inspired Choices Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am so excited you are here. We'll see you right back after the break. Thank you for listening to the Feel to Heal show with myself, Sharyn Nichols. See you back in a minute.
At different times on our life journey, we can feel stuck and struggle with seeing our way through. What if the answer to the struggle is just to go deeper than the surface? By tuning in to Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols, you'll receive insight and guidance on exploring your feelings in order to heal yourself. Are you ready to create a more satisfying, peaceful, and successful life? Listen for the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Healing through feeling is possible. What if you could start living life as you were meant to, before all the conditioning and trauma covered up your beautiful soul? What if your relationships could deepen through a more authentic connection to your feelings and others? A more satisfying, successful, and peaceful life is attainable when you work with Sharyn Nichols, marriage and family therapist and life guide. Connect through her website, feeltoheal.com, or her email, SharynNichols@feeltoheal.com, to learn more about the Feel to Heal process. Isn't it time for you to start healing?
This is Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also ask questions or comments by email by sending to Sharyn Nichols at feeltoheal.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, and thank you all for tuning in to the Feel to Heal show with myself, Sharyn Nichols, on the Inspired Choices Network, and we were streaming live on Facebook. So thank you for those who are watching, listening, participating, and come on in, come on back, come on in. Please, I welcome your comments, your insights, your questions, all, anything, nothing. I'll take it all. I would love some really awesome creative criticism. I'm so open and ripe and raw for it. So please, please, I beg. I know that sounds a little crazy that I'm begging for constructive criticism. It's all good though. Welcome. Today's topic is trauma. And so no matter what kind of trauma you may have gone through, large or small, physical, sexual, mental, emotional, or even spiritual, your trauma involves an incapacity to stop a terrible thing from happening to you. Regardless of blame or misfortune, it involves an incapacity to stop something terrible. So another common feature of trauma is feeling fearful of communicating with confidence or assertiveness. So reflecting on your experiences when you've done this several times in the past can be so helpful and useful in terms of helping to deal with healing the trauma. You know, my podcast is called Feel to Heal. My company is called Feel to Heal because I truly believe that the only way, or I should say the only, because it's only and never mind. The biggest way to heal yourself from all of the traumas, to heal yourself when you're triggered, is to allow yourself to feel. Feeling is healing. That's the way. The way is through, either over, I like that. For those watching, over, under, around, or through. Either way, no matter what, you must allow yourself to feel. So let's all receive a deep breath on that. And allow your eyes to close and continuing to breathe. Inhaling, exhaling. Inhaling. Releasing all the tension that is within your body with each breath. Moving your neck. Relaxing into a position so that you feel relaxed and alert. And now reflect on a time in your life when you felt really good about attaining a goal that you had set for yourself. What goal do you feel really proud of? What choices and actions did you make? What were some of the little things that led up to it? Consider how you have added value in situations or to other people. Reflecting on some of the things that you get done over the course of a day. Recalling the ways you influence others or played a leadership role, perhaps in your family, in friendships, or business. Bringing mindfulness to some of the positive choices that you've made and noticing all the empowering experiences that have led to a greater feeling of accomplishment. Be open to this feeling and let it fill you. Let it fill that coffer, fill that saucer, and allow it to become more intense in your mind and in your heart and in your body. Feel the goodness. The satisfaction, the success, the peace. Know that you have made things happen. You are competent. You are effective. And you will continue to do so. Breathe. If you find yourself wandering, come on back. Receive a breath. Notice any other feelings that may arise for you, like dignity, self-respect, or a much, much greater sense of possibility, of the opening of the openings. If you do happen to feel any resistance to this sense of success or self-worth right now, that's okay and completely normal. Be gentle with yourself and allow your mind to come back to remembering some of the good feelings that you've experienced after you did something that you're really proud of doing. Feel and allow this sense of accomplishment to be with you, into you. And remember always, and I do mean always, that you can tap into this feeling at any time. Anytime you remember it. You may also allow yourself to feel what it will or would be like to accomplish more, even the little tasks of the day. When you feel satisfied with meeting your goals that contribute to your well-being and the well-being of others, you are creating a greater sense of wholeness for yourself. Open to the reality that you can build on a foundation of what you have already done. So allow the ease to spread through your body and mind and release all the pressure. And if there's a sense of fragility somewhere in your consciousness, imagine a nurturing person who is holding you as a child, reassuring you that you will reach your goals, that you are special, powerful, and then you get things done and you make a difference. Thank yourself. Acknowledge yourself for your courage to remember who you really are. You are whole and complete as you are. Nothing is broken. Nothing needs to be fixed. Remember who you are, that you have you always, that you have this space, this mindfulness inside of you, ready to unleash at any time. Receive a breath. Wiggle in your seat. And when you are ready, allow your eyes to open and know that you got this. Feelings can change. They are fluid. So now we're going to go back. We're going to take a break. And when we come back from break, we're going to talk more about trauma and some of the things that you can do for yourself when these feelings come up. And I think we already know, first one is going to be to meditate. See you back in a minute. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Feel to Heal show with myself, Sharyn Nichols, on Inspired Choices Network. See you back in a minute.
At different times on our life journey, we can feel stuck and struggle with seeing our way through. What if the answer to the struggle is just to go deeper than the surface? By tuning in to Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols, you'll receive insight and guidance on exploring your feelings in order to heal yourself. Are you ready to create a more satisfying, peaceful, and successful life? Listen for the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
Healing through feeling is possible. What if you could start living life as you were meant to before all the conditioning and trauma covered up your beautiful soul? What if your relationships could deepen through a more authentic connection to your feelings and others? A more satisfying, successful, and peaceful life is attainable when you work with Sharyn Nichols, marriage and family therapist and life guide. Connect through her website, feeltoheal.com, or her email, SharynNichols@feeltoheal.com, to learn more about the Feel to Heal process. Isn't it time for you to start healing?
This is Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also ask questions or comments by email by sending to Sharyn Nichols at feeltoheal.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. Thank you so much. This is such a big, weighted, heavy topic for me. So for those of you who were watching, I'm just being a little bit more silly, just so I can temper the holding. It's part of what I do and know to do in terms of just being able to hold anyone where they are. So before I talk about some of the things you can do, I realize I want to talk about the neurobiology of trauma, because some of this stuff is just fascinating. And I got this from Dr. Ariel Schwartz. And she talks about the 5 stages or 6 stages. I mean, we all have heard of, the fright or flight stress response. It actually happens to be even more. Who knew? So let's talk about, she does nervous system 101. So the autonomic nervous system, the ANS, plays a significant role in our emotional and physiological responses to stress and trauma. The ANS is understood to have 2 primary systems, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system is associated with the fight or flight response and then the release of cortisol throughout the bloodstream. And then it's the parasympathetic nervous system that puts the brakes on the sympathetic nervous system, so the body stops releasing stress chemicals and shifts towards relaxation, digestion, and regeneration. So the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems are meant to work in a rhythmic alteration that supports healthy digestion, sleep, and immune system functioning. I truly do believe that most of us are stuck, and we are just stuck with our sympathetic nervous system constantly still releasing the cortisol because we keep getting re-triggered and we don't actually allow ourselves to let the parasympathetic kick in. And then if we do, that gets overtaxed. I mean, it's all about calming. It's all about bringing ourselves back to center. So beyond the fight or flight. So there are the 6 F's: freeze, flight, fight, fright, flag, and faint. Freeze, we all know, the initial stage of responding to potential danger involves freeze. Like the deer caught in headlights. And most importantly, freeze will occur in preparation for the action that's about to happen. And it's usually very short-lived. So that's good. I mean, it is incredible how we are as animals, how we respond in a situation that could be, that where we get triggered, because it's about defending ourselves. The flight and fight. So the second and third stages of responding are maintained by the sympathetic nervous system, in which you're mobilized into either the flight or the fight. So you're either going to run or you're going to stay and use your fists. So the process involves initial attempts to flee. However, if it's impossible to escape, we'll resort to fighting. And of course, then we have within the sympathetic nervous system, it increases blood flow through to the heart and muscles and the arms and the legs, accompanied by faster and deeper breathing. Then there's fright. So now as we look further into the progression of the trauma responses, we see that the 4th stage sets in when flight or fight do not restore safety. So when there is no escape, a fright takes over with feelings of panic, dizziness, nausea, lightheadedness, tingling, and numbing. And according to Schauer and Elbert, this stage is considered to have dual autonomic activation. So it's seen in abrupt and disjointed alternations between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system actions. It is in this stage that we see the initial symptoms of dissociation, which now, from my point of view, makes complete and total sense as to why we dissociate, because the parasympathetic and the sympathetic are now fighting with each other, and neither one knows what to do or which one to take over or which one's going to rise to the top. So we then pull ourselves out because we don't know what to do. Makes complete and total sense to me. I hope it does to you as well. And dissociation is a way to put things in its own little box, to be the observer of yourself is part of actually the healing process. Because if you are being an observer of yourself, so therefore then you can step out of what's happening. And now when you're reliving it or talking about it, you can then talk about it in the third person, which can be healing as long as you're not addressing what you're feeling. Moving on. So flag. So if there's still no resolution of the threatening situation, you will progress into the 5th stage, flag, which is the which is the collapse, helplessness, and despair that signals the parasympathetic based nervous system shutdown and immobilization. So dissociative reactions dominate this phase. Voluntary movements, including speech, become more difficult, sounds become distant, vision blurs, and numbness prevails. The heart rate and blood pressure drop, sometimes rapidly in some cases, which then leads to the sixth stage, which is faint. The faint response appears to serve several purposes from an evolutionary and survival perspective. When the body succumbs to a horizontal position, blood supply increases to the brain. Furthermore, fainting is connected to disgust, an emotional response which rejects toxic or poisonous material. Think about how incredible we are. Think about what our body does to help our minds. So according to Sharyn and Albert, experience or even witnessing horrific offense, such as forced physical or sexual violence, can trigger, there's the vagus nerve dysregulation, which then promotes nausea, loss of bowel control, vomiting, and fainting. And usually when you physically start expelling, people are going to step away from you. I mean, I know it may sound really nasty and disgusting. However, for you to lose your bowels, that might be a great way for someone to stop doing what they're doing to you and walk away. So again, it's all about protecting your body and then even your mind. And I'm going to say that if you do get to the sixth stage of faint, there is no shame, none whatsoever. It is your body doing what it knows to do to protect you and to help you and support you through a horrific experience. I was talking with a bunch of people about trauma. I'm going to take a break in a minute. And with regards to the dissociation, it is so okay to acknowledge that you were observing yourself in the moment and that it was that part of you that was so trusting and so open and kind that was participating in something that was so horrific. So let's receive a breath on that and just cut yourself a break. And when we come back from break, cut yourself a break. And when we come back from this break, we're going to talk about all the things that you can do for yourself to help you move through your feelings. See you back here in a minute. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Feel to Heal show with myself, Sharyn Nichols, and we have been talking about trauma. See you back in a minute.
At different times on our life journey, we can feel stuck and struggle with seeing our way through. What if the answer to the struggle is just to go deeper than the surface? By tuning in to Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols, you'll receive insight and guidance on exploring your feelings in order to heal yourself. Are you ready to create a more satisfying, peaceful, and successful life? Listen for the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Healing through feeling is possible. What if you could start living life as you were meant to before all the conditioning and trauma covered up your beautiful soul? What if your relationships could deepen through a more authentic connection to your feelings and others? A more satisfying, successful, and peaceful life is obtainable when you work with Sharyn Nichols, marriage and family therapist and life guide. Connect through her website, feeltoheal.com, or her email, SharynNichols@feeltoheal.com, to learn more about the Feel to Heal process. Isn't it time for you to start healing?
This is Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also ask questions or comments by email by sending to SharynNichols@feeltoheal.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Feel to Heal show with myself, Sharyn Nichols, on the incredible Inspired Choices Network. Because of course because you are a able-bodied, smart human being. So of course you do know. We've all experienced trauma. There really is no way to actually avoid it. So Elizabeth Scott, on Dr. Elizabeth Scott, she's a PhD on Very Well Mind, talks about the 12 tips for dealing with trauma. And I'm not going to talk about all 12 of them, but they're all really significant and important. And it's all basic, logical, and all equally as important. We do know. We just want to sometimes be told. We just want to be held. We want to allow ourselves, we need to allow ourselves to feel and know that we are going to get triggered. Although if we become anxious over being triggered, that only can cause more triggering. I know it becomes a wonderful catch-22, but I'm going to bring this around. So first and foremost, after you've been triggered or experienced something new or a new trauma, focus on what's important. Sometimes just getting through the day is enough, and that's okay. It's okay. There is always tomorrow. Find support. Please let go of the shame and the guilt and the notion that you are the only one that this is actually happening to. Because we've all experienced similar things. It's impossible. We've all experienced loss. We've all experienced shame. We've all experienced guilt. We've all experienced anger. We've all experienced joy and bliss. Maybe the joy and the bliss and the happiness are fewer and farther between than the others. Although we've all experienced the full range of emotions. So work on lessening your stress response. So when you experience a crisis, you know you're going to be triggered. So your body's going to experience it. So receive a breath. always go back to the breath. Go back to the breath. It will reduce your time on the wave, because you need to ride the wave. You need to ride the emotional wave once you get triggered. Just ride it, because eventually it'll end. It's usually what happens. Most rides end. They do. This whole life ride, eventually it's going to end. And my quote, everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. So everything is always going to be okay. It will. So that's what I was referring to in terms of breath and meditation. Always bring yourself back to your breath. Take a moment to center, to ground, meditate. Always go back to that. Go back to your happy place. Go back to the meadow where you are safe. Go back to the sparkling ocean, the energy that is you. Tap into that. And something that I've been saying for quite some time is process out your feelings. Write in a journal. Keep a gratitude journal. Start focusing on all of the things that are positive, that do bring the satisfaction and the success and the peace that is your God-given birthright. Focus on self-care. Get enough sleep and exercise and watch your diet. I know for me, I allow myself, when I'm feeling really crappy and shitty because I've been triggered, I will do a portion control of my favorite chips or my M&Ms. And then it's as the therapist, it's prescribing the symptom. So if I know that I need to do this to make myself feel better, I will allow it, but then I temper it and I take it back. Here may be the hardest one. Accepting your feelings, because it can be scary. But accepting where you are, accepting that you feel overwhelmed, accepting that you're hurting, accepting that it fucking sucks what happened to you. It's okay. Just allow. And focus on all of your senses. Give your mind something else to focus on. So do a mindful walk, mindful eating. Ground yourself. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's show and listening and talking and being a part of letting go and releasing the trauma that you feel, that we feel on a regular basis. This will be the running theme, because next week's show is going to be talking about the secrets that we keep. And I have a feeling that has a lot to do with some of the trauma that I've been talking about. So I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to continue to talk more about trauma and how you can continue to feel to heal. Take care. Thank you for tuning in. Sharyn Nichols here, Feel to Heal Show. See you back next week. Take care.
Thank you for choosing to listen to the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show. Sharyn Nichols will return next Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, give up the struggle, feel all you need to feel, and make this week your best one yet.